Welcome to the Writerpreneur podcast, where we teach nonfiction writers how to build a business. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about what does just starting look like. In the last episode, I talked about the only thing that you need to do in a business is not create a logo. You don't need a business plan. You don't need a whole brand identity. You just need to start. And I got so many responses coming back. Thank you guys. I got so many of you guys responding saying, what does that first step look like? So in this episode, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to walk you through my own story for a business that I'd started. It was the best business idea I ever had, and it lasted 6 months because I did it backwards. I thought having interesting conversations on a podcast would be enough to build an audience, but it wasn't. I thought having a strong brand identity with the colors and the logos would build that engaged community and the buy-in. And it didn't. And I thought having a coaching program fully built out with templates and trainings all ready to go would drive sales, and it didn't. So here are the 4 steps that I did and how I did it completely backwards. And then I'm going to tell you exactly what it means to just start. Step 1, I came up with a brand name and the tagline. I decided on Beyond Forgiveness for the brand name. The entire mission was to help men heal from their past. And I believe the hardest part of healing is the daily work that comes after the first step of forgiveness. Brand name Beyond Forgiveness. And the tagline was the warrior's journey. It takes a true warrior to walk the daily healing path. So, brand name, Beyond Forgiveness, tagline, the warrior's journey. So once I had that, the obvious next step is to come up with a logo and a color scheme and a brand identity, right? Well, that's what I did in step 2. I hired someone on Fiverr to create a logo. I worked with a friend to come up with a color scheme. I went and bought fancy lights to match the color scheme that I have for the background of my podcast. I went and bought a full costume to wear on my podcast, which is really embarrassing and ridiculous when I say that out loud. I also bought an intro template for my podcast and spent about 3 weeks editing it to match with the colors and the feel and to have this really cool intro to my podcast. Now I was like, okay, cool. Now I have a brand name and I have the brand identity. So the next logical step is to start building the product, right? Well, no, but that's what I did. So step 3 is I came up with a business model and then I built the product. So step 3, business model and product. The business model I decided on was coaching. I said, great, let's become a coach. Let's help these people through an 8-week coaching program. So now I spent the next couple weeks, I think it was about 2 months actually, so about 8 weeks, building out this program. This entire program included course trainings, it included templates, it included checklists, it included weekly check-ins, a call schedule, the whole shebang. And, because it's a coaching program with courses and trainings and checklists, I needed a ton of software, right? So you need a virtual meeting software. I needed a course hosting software. I needed a webinar software. I needed a website, an email CRM, a calendar booking software, a video editing software, social media management software, and of course, all of the video and audio equipment needed to run a podcast. That was a lot to say. At this point in the process, I'd spent about 4 months and way too much money, and I hadn't recorded a single podcast episode. I hadn't validated this idea in any way. I hadn't created a single post, hadn't created a single article. I hadn't published a single thing. So now, step 4, it's time to create content. That has to be the next step, right? So step 4, create content. Over the following 2 months, I recorded 8 podcast episodes and published 12 articles. And the results of that was absolutely shocking. I had put 6 months into working on this idea, getting all the back end, getting everything set up, and I gained almost no traction, right? So I thought having interesting conversations on a podcast would build an audience, and it didn't. I thought having a strong brand identity with colors and logos and everything to match with the intro, all of that would build buy-in and engagement in the community, and it didn't. And I thought having the coaching program built out with all of the softwares and everything being clean and integrated and built and ready to go would drive sales, and it didn't. And here is what I learned. It's not your job to create demand. Your job is to identify existing demand and channel that into whatever you offer. And you do that by hitting publish. When you're building a logo, you build the business plan, the product, the brand identity, everything else that is not hitting publish, what you're doing is you're putting everything before validating the demand. And this is a very dangerous assumption. You assume that if you build it, people will come. In my experience, 99% of the time, that's false. So what is just starting? Just starting is hitting publish, even when you're not ready, especially when you're not ready. It's recording that podcast episode and publishing it, even though it doesn't have the beautiful intro or the logo, even though you've rambled and there were awkward moments in the conversation, it's publishing it anyway. It's publishing that article, even though you know it's not quite your best. Getting started is hitting publish again and again and again and again until you get feedback. Once you get feedback, you can do all of the other things. Once you've validated that the demand is here and that you can channel that demand into something, then sure, then you can build out the brand name, the tagline, the identity, build out the product, all of that, of course. But until you do that, it's an absolute waste of time. Now, one final thought here. The hardest part about getting started is being consistent. It's hitting publish again and again and again. Hell, even after you started, it's still the hardest part. And if this message resonates with you, and you'd be interested in joining a 30-day publishing challenge, then go to gabrielklingman.com, sign up for my email list, and then just reply to any of my emails. I send a few a week and just say, hey, I'm interested in the 30-day challenge, right? You can reply to that intro email you'll get. What this will do is I can add you to a specific list that I'm creating. And here's what I'm thinking about. Everyone would get into a group of about 5 people. And every one of those 5 people commits to doing 2 things every single day for 30 days. So the first is everyone commits to hitting publish every day. Regardless of whether the piece of content is ready, you hit publish. We have a specific time frame, like no more than an hour a day of working on it, and you hit publish. And the second thing is you post into the group and everyone gives feedback on everyone else's content, whatever everyone else published. So if I publish something and you publish something, by the end of the day, we both give feedback on each other's work. Now, what happens is over the course of 30 days, you get 150 pieces of feedback, you give 30 pieces of feedback, and you hit publish 30 times. That is more progress. That is more feedback. That is more learning than most people will do in 12 months. So if this is interesting to you, I'm considering running this in my Writerpreneur community. So just go to gabrielklingman.com. That's GabrielKlingman.com and sign up for the newsletter and then reply to that first welcome email that you'll get and just say 30-day challenge, I'm interested. What that'll do is I'll go ahead and manually add you to a list. And if I get enough people who are interested, then I'll put this together and I'll send you more details. As always, thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to sharing more insights in the next episode.